So Fred McGriff gets elected by the contemporary era to the Hall of Fame last night. And let me stress by saying this is not about Fred McGriff. This is not about his candidacy for the Hall of Fame, whether he necessarily belongs in or not. I'm not really sure that matters. What is happening across the board, and not only Major League Baseball, it is happening to the NFL and everything else. We are constantly moving the goalposts on what it takes to get in the Hall of Fame, not only from a player statistical standpoint, but from a voting standpoint. So let me get this straight. Like, let's just understand this, right? Um, we had a criteria for the Hall of Fame where we had the voters, and then if the voters didn't vote you in, then we all of a sudden developed this veterans committee. And if the Veterans Committee didn't vote you in, then we developed this contemporary committee. So let me get this straight. The writers didn't vote you in. We got another committee. If that committee didn't vote you in, we got another committee to that committee. So we have to go. You get three iterations to actually get into the Hall of Fame. Three. Shouldn't be that way. I mean, it's kind of really, simple. Like, if you want to be a lawyer or you want to be a doctor, there is a standard of what you must pass on your LSATs, on your GMATs, or whatever it is, or not GMATs. What's the forget the doctor school, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. And if you don't get there the first time, guess what? You don't get to go take a next test and then have the grade be lower to get in. And if you don't do that, then have the grade be lower again the third time to get it. Like, what are we doing here as far as the standard for the Hall of Fame? When did we get to this point where if you don't get in, guess what? You're just not a Hall of Famer. That's it. Like, when do we get to a point where that is not the okay result? Maybe it's because we're I'll say it. Maybe we're just a soft ass society now. Maybe just because all of a sudden we're all about inclusivity and everything. That if we leave somebody out of the Hall of Fame, we might offend them and hurt their feelings. The hell is going on, guys? It's okay to leave people out of the Hall of Fame. It doesn't mean they're bad players. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It doesn't mean they're bad anything. It just means they're not a Hall of Famer. And I've said this before routinely. This probably comes from my military background. And we are very diligent in how we give out awards in the military, and we don't hand them out very capriciously. And if you don't get the award, guess what? There's almost next to zero reviews of that process. Now, you could argue there should be a review of the process, but there should only be a review of the process if something was done wrong, right? You can always resubmit an award if you want. But I say all this to say that, like, there's a standard for the Medal of Honor, right? There's a standard for a Silver Star. If you start slowly bringing that standard back, like you don't need to do X, Y, and Z to get a Medal of Honor. We just need to pull it back a little bit. Then you pull back the one for the Silver Star. Guess what? Everybody's going to start to get these things. And you know what that means? They mean less. It means nothing, right? We started the same thing happened in the NFL at the Pro Bowl. Guess what? Oh, the first seven guys backed out. Tyrod Taylor gets in. What? What are we doing here? If they don't want to play, fine. You put a sub in there, but guess what? They don't get the title of being a Pro Bowler. Like, we got to this point, and I don't understand how where we have these multiple iterations of how to get into the Hall of Fame. It's really simple. If you don't get in, you're not in. Deal with it. Like, why do we have to put everybody in? Hey, put your fandom aside. Honestly, put your fandom aside. Diehard Yankee fan. Been my entire life. Do I think Don Mattingly is a Hall of Famer? Not only no, but hell no. And eventually, this contemporary era is going to put him in. I guarantee you. Because here's what's happened now with the contemporary era committee, and this was brought up by Jason Stark and Buster Olney. Like, there's a total of 48 votes. You need at least 12. You can only vote for three people max. And the idea that Fred McGriff getting in this way was as much of a statement about him as it was against the steroid guys. And I am more and more on the side now. The fact that we're leaving the steroid, that Bonds and Clemens in particular being left out, makes the Hall of Fame more and more a joke because those two clearly had Hall of Fame resumes before they ever touched a PED. And we're going to leave them out. It's ridiculous at this point. Hall of Fame voting has become a joke across the board in all of these sports. It's nauseating to me. And you're all going to sit here and say, Zinno, get off my lawn. You're the get off my lawn guy. Why? You mean, like, no, I don't know. Again, maybe it's the military guy in me. I just have a set of standards that I adhere to, period. Like in the military, we take a physical fitness test. There's a pass line and there's a fail line. If you don't get there, guess what? You failed. You got to do it again. There's not a, well, they were only one push up short. Well, it's okay. You know, we'll do a review and maybe try to find another push up somewhere. No, no, no. You didn't get in. You didn't pass. Period. It's done. It's over. And again, this isn't about Fred McGriff, Braves fans. Don't get all pissy. Do I think Fred McGriff is a Hall of Famer? No, I genuinely don't. Because here's the problem, and this is the perfect illustration of it. Sure, Fred McGriff's a Hall of Famer. I'll ask you a question. Mark Teixeira, a Hall of Famer? No. Paul Konerko, a Hall of Famer? No. They have so many comparable stats to Fred McGriff, it's not even funny. So now, once you let McGriff in, now you have to open the conversation to Teixeira, to Konerko. And when you let them in, then you have to open the conversation back even further to lesser and lesser guys. Where does the line stop? When do we stop moving the goalposts? When do we stop moving the line to get into the Hall of Fame? You tell me, because I don't know when it's going to stop. 500 home runs is the standard. You get 500 home runs, you go in. McGriff's got 493. Oh, well. If you needed 1,200 on your SATs to get into a school and you get an 1190, guess what? Oh, well, you don't get in. It's okay. I don't get when we got to this point where all of a sudden this is like, oh my God, we've offended Fred McGriff. We've offended Dale Murphy. We've offended Don Mattingly and Kurt Schilling and everybody else because they can't get in the Hall of Fame. I don't get it. I don't get it. Maybe you guys do. Maybe, again, could I be wrong? Possibly. Do I think I am? No. I think I've hit this one right on the head. Again, and you guys let your fandom get in the way. I don't. I don't get emotional about this stuff. I do it with objectivity. And that's the way it should be treated, with objectivity. Blind resumes across the board. Sorry, Fred McGriff. You led the league in home runs twice. Never led the league again in any other statistical category ever. Now, could you argue, well, when the steroid guys took over and took all the numbers, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, honestly, I don't. Like, I don't know how to say it. He finished top 5 in the MVP voting once. Once. 5 All-Star teams in 20 years. What are we doing here? And again, I have to point out all the bad stuff to make it look like he doesn't belong in when there might be a case for him to get in, but I don't think he should be in. Harold Baines shouldn't be in. There's a bunch of guys who shouldn't be in. And the NFL is even worse. The NFL is a joke the way they put people in the Hall of Fame. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox now. I feel like I've said enough. If you don't agree with me, you're never going to agree with me. But you're also not going to change my mind. I like standards. I like rules. I like, the idea of you have to be X to get Y. And if you're not X, guess what? No fruit cup. Want to remind you guys to make sure you check out Locked On Falcons with Aaron Freeman. We appreciate you guys making it your first listen. For your next listen, check out Locked On Sports Today podcast. Biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts.